This project was composed by Aisha Vargas Hussein, Axelis Cabanfere, and Valerie Cortez Rodriguez. Our topic is animal cloning. Our research is focused in animal cloning, how it works, the different types of cloning, which are the benefits it offers to our society, and ways it is a major solution in our environment. Meaning of animal cloning. Cloning is a non-sexual process. It is non-sexual because if it was sexual, it couldn't create an exact organism because of the diversity of nature. An entire organism is reproduced from a single cell. This cell is taken from the parent organism. It is genetically identical in manner. The process produces a clone that will be an exact copy. It will have the same exact DNA. Clones can happen naturally. An example of this will be twins, identical twins. Or also, this can be viewed in agriculture with farmers who know manual techniques in which can clone plants. How does cloning works? The cells are cloned first. From there, the DNA sequence of the organism begins. A simpler definition for cloning is a process that can be used to produce genetically identical copies of a biological entity. An entire organism is reproduced from a single cell taken from the parent organism. The process produces a clone that will be an exact copy. It will have the same exact DNA. For example, the first mammal that was cloned was a sheep named Dolly in 1997 from a mammary gland cell from a 6-year-old adult sheep. Three types of cloning. Gene cloning, which produces copies of genes or segments of DNA. Reproductive cloning, that produces copies of the animals, and therapeutic cloning, produces embryonic stem cells which are used to create tissues to replace injured or diseased tissue. There are two non-natural ways to make an exact genetic copy of an organism. Artificial embryo twinning. This process tries to imitate the natural process that creates identical twins. In the first days after fertilization, the twins are formed when the embryo splits in two. Each half of the embryo continues dividing on its own until the individuals are separated. They will be genetically identical because they develop from the same fertilized egg. Artificial embryo twinning uses the same method. The only difference is that it happens in a petri dish instead of inside a mother. When the embryo divides and it's separated in different cells, the embryos are then placed into a surrogate mother, where they finish developing. Somatic cell nuclear transfer. This was the method used to create Dolly the sheep, also called nuclear transfer. What does SCNT mean? Somatic cell. A somatic cell is any cell in the body other than the reproductive cells, which are the egg and the sperm. In mammals, every somatic cell has two complete set of chromosomes, and the reproductive cell only have one complete cell set. Nuclear. The nucleus holds the cell's DNA. The DNA is divided into packages called chromosomes, and it contains all the information needed to form an organism. Transfer. To make Dolly, researchers isolated a somatic cell from an adult female sheep. Next, they removed the nucleus and all of its DNA from an egg cell. Then they transferred the nucleus from the somatic cell to the egg cell. After a couple of chemical tweaks, the egg cell with its new nucleus was behaving just like a freshly fertilized egg. It developed into an embryo, which was implanted into a surrogate mother and carried to term. The benefits of cloning. It aims to decrease animal extinction. It preserves endangered species. Provides food resources for humans. It can be used for organ cloning for transplants. And it reduces animal testing. Preserve animals in extinction or endangered species. This is without a doubt one of the major environmental benefits that animal cloning will provide. For this to be possible, there has to be efficient traces of DNA. Since the scientific background of animal cloning was established by amphibians, restoring endangered or extinct amphibians will be the most easiest. The first animal to be cloned that was in danger was a banteng, and they used a cow as a surrogate mother. Scientists made it clear that the banteng died of dysteria, and they expressed how his death had nothing to do with him being a clone. By cloning animals, the food resources for humans will be better in the sense that the animal will be healthier since they ensure that the animal they clone has the best genetics. They are also able to clone specific body parts of an animal, like tissue or organs. They're able to clone organs for transplants as well. By cloning body parts of an animal without having the animal being hurt or killed will be a big step for us all. When the animal body parts are cloned for consumption, companies and factories don't have to exploit them. The FDA, also known as the Food and Drug Administration, declared that food from cloned animals and their descendants is safe to eat. Cloning companies and some farmers have been fighting for the approval of the government to turn cloning into an agriculture tool. Reduce animal testing. There are many people against animal testing. It is cruel to see animals being objectified and viewed no more than an experiment. Cloning and stem cell research could lead to fewer drug tests on animals and human patients. Dr. Lovell Badge mentioned, you could use human embryonic stem cell lines to test drugs for their effectiveness. You will probably have to back it up with animal studies and clinical studies as well. But it will probably allow us to reduce the number of animals as well as humans used in research. With a clone epidermis, a lot of animal testing will be avoided. Examples of animals that have been cloned. Dolly, the first mammal that has successfully been cloned. Noah, the first endangered mammal being cloned. Cece, the first companion pet cloned. The first cloned pet was named Cece for carbon copy. Noah, a Banten clone created by Advanced Cell Technologies. Banten are endangered wild bovine from Southeast Asia. This clone was created from frozen tissue of an animal that died in 1980. Dolly, the first mammal to be cloned and her healthy offspring named Bonnie. The famous cloned mammal sheep named Dolly, which was the first mammal clone using an adult cell by nuclear transfer in 1996. Medical advances by cloning. Here we have the example of Dolly, the sheep that was cloned. Cloned animals can be genetically engineered to be more nutritious or to carry human traits that could lead to development of new medicines. How Dolly the sheep was cloned. Step 1. Memory cells removed from a 6-year-old sheep in its last trimester of pregnancy. Step 2. Cells placed in a cultured dish and starved of nutrients to the verge of death. Step 3. Rescued cell inserted into unfertilized sheep egg, containing no DNA. This makes the egg think it is fertilized, and embryo production begins. Step 4. Egg is implanted into sheep, ready for pregnancy. Step 5. After 148 days, Dolly, a healthy lamb, was born. It took scientists 277 tries before producing Dolly. Here we have some example of animals that have been cloned in the years 2002 through 2017. As a group, we decided to do an animal cloning survey, since the subject animal cloning is very controversial. In the survey, we asked the following questions. Are you in favor or against animal cloning? Do you think animal cloning could bring benefits to the environment? Are you in favor of cloning healthy animals for human consumption? If an emergency happens and suddenly you're in need of an organ transplant, will you consider receiving a cloned organ? If anything happens to your pet, will you consider the option of cloning it, having in mind that there are cloning companies who have successfully done it? Will you consider that experiments done in cloned skin are just as trustworthy as experiments done in animal skin? What was the purpose of the survey? The purpose of the survey was to know what people think about animal cloning, because it's a rare topic. We know that animal cloning has several benefits for human beings, the environment, and science innovation. So we thought it was important to know what people think and if they find it acceptable. So if innovators start using animal cloning as a source, we wanted to know how people will feel about it. What people participated in the survey? All people that participated in the survey were volunteers, so it was random. One of the group members made an online survey via Google Forms and posted it on Facebook, so everybody who wanted to participate could do it. People started sharing the link, and we finally had 82 volunteers, where almost 75 of the people were women and the other 25% were men. 30% of the people had approximately 19 to 20 years. 11% were 44 years of adults. 44-year-old adults. 10% were 46 through 49 years old. And the rest goes from 1% to 2%, representing a variety of ages. Our youngest respondent has 17 years old. What did we find in our survey? The results were kind of unexpected because there's a variety of opinions and they have a little lack of coherency. 60% of those respondents are against animal cloning and the 40% is in favor. We knew that the statistics were going that way because people put their moral beliefs as a priority and they think cloning is not morally correct. 60% also said that animal cloning couldn't bring benefits to the environment. I had the opportunity to ask one of the contestants why did she thought that animal cloning wouldn't bring any benefits to the environment. And she said that there were a lot of animals suffering from hunger, abandonment, captivity, and all that stuff. So she asked why cloning will be a solution if there are a lot of real animals in need. She had a point. We obviously didn't put our reason in the survey on how animal cloning will be an environmental benefit because then the survey will be biased. But animal cloning will be an environmental benefit by preserving all kinds of animals. Animals that have become extinct or animals that are endangered. 70% of the people are against cloning healthy animals for human consumption. We found it funny because people eat real animals every day without knowing where they're from or if they have been genetically changed or if they're what the process was or if they've been injected with hormones or anything. And we feel like with cloned animals everything will be more controlled. And since scientists only clone the animal with the best genetics, I think it will be healthier for human consumption. What was surprising about the survey is that most of the people could accept clone organs if they had an emergency. So when we're talking about our own life, we forget about 78% of the people wouldn't clone their pet. I think this has something to do about how if you clone your pet, the clone will look exactly the same as your pet, but it will never be the same as your pet. It will never get your pet's personality traits. 63% of people wouldn't trust a test in cloned skin. So in conclusion, people generally don't find animal cloning a trustworthy thing. But it's important to know that this might be seen frequently in the future of science and that it might be helpful for us. So we should learn more about the subject in order to understand the benefits of it.